Hello, welcome to my fourth devlog. I have a few things to cover here. The first one I'll look at is I'll show you the line of sight. Then I'll also show you the pursue state, so the enemy actually runs after the player when they leave the attack range or get out of the line of sight, out of the line of sight. I'll also show you just some simple shooting functionality just to show just it's really meant to just be a placeholder for the state, like the player will take some damage. Then there's also the strafing. So the AI doesn't just stand still when shooting, but I try to make a little system where they kind of go left and right a bit randomly, and all of that can be modified. And there's also the runaway state. So when the enemy gets low health, and the enemy will just sorry when the enemy gets low health, then the enemy will just start to run away. So I'll just show you now what that looks like from a gameplay standpoint. So let's see here. Let's load this up. I'll give you this perspective here so you can see the bar. So you'll notice that it's green right now, which means I'm outside of all the vision ranges. But when I do step in to the vision ranges, but I'm behind an obstacle, it'll turn yellow. When I step out from behind the obstacle, then you'll see the detection bar starts to build up. And yeah, so that's just how line of sight works. When I'm behind it, it goes back down, and when I'm outside of it, it builds back up. And next you'll see is the enemy is now running towards me to try get in range to shoot me. And so when they get in range, they'll start to shoot, and you'll see them strafing from left to right actually. So they're kind of just it's just meant to be going like add a little bit of randomness to their behavior, so they're harder to shoot. And you'll see that if I walk from behind here, or walk behind here, they'll start to chase after me. And yeah, they won't start to shoot unless they both have line of sight and I'm in their attack range. And another thing too is when I press, so I'm gonna have this functionality set up here. When I press K, you'll see their health will go down. And so when their health gets really low, like this, then they'll just start to run away. And they'll pick a spot basically wherever the player is not, as far away from the player as possible. And they'll just, yeah, run for their dear lives. So, um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Now I'm gonna go under the hood and show you how it all works from the coding standpoint. Okay, let me just throw this here. So you're already familiar, should by now, if you've been following along with all the devlogs, you should be familiar with this is the brain, this enemy brain smarter. This is the brain. This is like the controller that handles transitions, the states, all of the main variables. And so for the line of sight, I simply just have this is where I handle the line of sight logic. Um, well, technically just here really. Um, this is mainly just for the debug to show that they're not even in any sort of range to be detected. Um, but yeah, so this is the line of sight, and it's always checking every frame. And if the and in both my handle detection and handle alerted state, so these are where the bars build up, it checks as this is a condition to see if the player is in a line of sight, and if they are, and depending on what vision cone or detection zone they are in, it'll build up at different speeds. And the same thing kind of just translates to the alerted state. Only thing is that it's doubled the detection speed. Um, and obviously, if they're not in line of sight, then and if they're not in any of these spots, then the detection will go down. And this is where I kind of handle the chase. I guess these two transitions here kind of handle the chase. Like this is like I guess the combat. These are like the combat states. So of course, if the way the transitions work, if you look at the syntax here, um, you start with this state and you go into this state, everything on this side is the condition for that transition. So basically, you go from the pursue state to the shoot state. Well, first off, I should say that you go from the alerted state to the pursue state if the alerted bar is full, and you go from the pursue state to the shoot state if the player is in the attack range and the enemy has line of sight. Otherwise, they still just remain in the pursue state, and the pursue state is basically just walking towards the player, and it does this every frame via the tick method. And then it goes from the shoot state to the pursue state if the player is either not in attack range or the enemy doesn't have any line of sight. So this is just kind of like the combat transitions. Um, in terms of the combat, I kind of have it set up here where basically the there's a shoot method in the shoot state where this is the logic for handling the shooting at the player. It's random, and you can manage the inaccuracy so it's not like the AI is perfectly accurate with their shots. Um, and there's also a strafe movement, so this is just handling the the enemy's like randomized movement, strafing left and right around the player. Obviously, it looks weird because I don't have any leg animations in, but yeah, it's just meant to add a bit of randomness, and you can increase the attack range of the enemy and the amount that they strafe by. Um, so yeah, it's all set up there, and this is all just handled in the shoot animation, and then of course I have a retreat state or a runaway state. Let's go here. So the way the runaway state works is it calculates a distance or calculates a spot based on where the player is in the opposite direction of the player, and just selects a spot within the nav mesh, and the nav mesh sets its destination to there, or the AI nav mesh controller agent or the navigation controller agent picks that spot and heads over there, and it recalculates this spot um, based on this. Well, actually, based on this right here, based on this and this, the difference between the two. And yeah, the enemy just runs away, and I increase the speed to be the runaway speed multiplier. Um, and the way that transition works is it goes from the shoot state to the runaway state. Um, if the enemy health is uh, lower than is at or lower than 25%. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, I could add more transitions to the runaway state from these other states. Like if the player just shoots them when they're not shooting or not in combat, then they run away. But yeah, this is yeah, this is pretty much the setup. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much the project, and you know it's a great foundation for more stuff if needed. And yeah, thanks for watching.